Welcome to Book Gems, books I love and love to share. As we stand in the season of Christmas and on the threshold of a brand new year, many of us are facing real challenges. And for this reason, I want to bring you hope, quite literally a night of hope. What you'll hear is a recording done in November, hosted by Julie Karas, of 4 authors, Tessa Afshar, Carrie Turansky, Heidi Chiavaroli, and myself, as we share what the Lord's been doing in our lives, our struggles, and how He's been helping us, in the hope that it will bring encouragement to you and hope for your journey. We also share our latest books. It was in celebration of Tessa Afshar's brand new book, The Hidden Prince. All the books are wonderful, and I hope you enjoy them. But most of all, I hope you are encouraged in your journey. So Julie, who hosted that evening, take us away.
Okay, well, we're ready to get started. We're going to get started with our first author. First of all, welcome again to everyone who just came in. We have Tessa Afshar, Cathy, Gohlke, Carrie Turansky, and Heidi Chiavaroli. And we're going to start with our first author, Tessa Afshar. I'll just introduce her. Her writings have reached readers across the world, and they've been translated into 11 languages. She's won numerous awards like the Christie and the Inspi, and her book, The Way Home, is the winner of the Christian Book Award in the Bible study category. You might know Tessa Afshar as the best-selling author and writer of historical fiction in biblical times, and she's just released her 10th novel, The Hidden Prince, this week. But I know Tessa as a warm and generous soul who can see God's worth in every person she meets. She always has a gentle and encouraging word. And that's why I'm really excited that she's going to share with you more about what God is doing in her life with her writing. So go ahead, Tessa.
Thank you so much, Julie. Everybody, I want to first of all acknowledge that the beautiful Julie Karas has been the one who's really put this event together for us. We couldn't be here without her. She's worked the hardest out of all of us. And right now, even as she was speaking, she was letting people in. I mean, she's like multitasking to the nth degree. So we can't see your faces. We can see your messages, but your faces aren't here in front of us. You're all somewhere in the land of being completely private in your own little, ensconced in your own little rooms. But I am just clapping for Julie, and if you would join me as well for a moment. When we were planning for this night, the 4 of us started talking about it. We all agreed that we didn't want to just do kind of a sales pitch for our books. We didn't want to do another kind of superficial program. We felt like all of us needed something deeper, and we wanted to give our readers and our fans that deeper, spiritual food that we're all longing for. And so we decided that we would talk about what God has been speaking into our own hearts, into our own souls over the past few months or longer. And we decided that we would all be like super open about the way God has been working in our own lives. We wanted to share with you the hope that God has implanted in our souls. And of course, that means for some of us that we've been going through some challenges before we got to the point of hope. So I want to start my talk tonight with a verse. And when I tell you how much this verse has meant to me recently in the past couple of months, you're probably going to be like, what? Because when I read it to you, you'll be like, that's not all that interesting, but I'll tell you why. So this verse is from Deuteronomy 7:22. And this is how it goes. The Lord your God will clear away these nations before you, little by little. You may not make an end of them at once, but the Lord your God will give them over to you. And this is Moses talking to God's people before they enter the promised land. And so it was the words little by little that captured me, because I suddenly realized that really they frame sort of what's been going on in my own life for the past maybe 2 or 3 years. We live in a world where everything is in the all at once, if you will. First of all, I think the human soul longs for the all at once of God. When it comes to our longings, when it comes to our dreams, when it comes to the difficult places, we want everything done all at once. It's just part of the soul. But on top of that, we live in a world where sort of our shallow lives, our day-to-day ordinary lives are lived in a place of all at once. So, we don't even have to wait in order to, like, if you're hungry at night, my friend was telling me she had her grandkids over and they had been out for lunch. So she was planning to serve them just some cereal. Have you ever done that? I mean, I think all of us sometimes settle on cereal. And the granddaughter said, "Oh no, we want McDonald's," or one of the other ones. And I think Burger King. And so she said, "No way, I'm not going out. I'm exhausted. We've already been out most of the day." And they said, "You don't have to go out. You just get an app and we order and they deliver Burger King to the house." And sure enough, they did. And I think it's moments like this where we suddenly realize how much we are training our minds, the shallow places of our minds. We're training them into the all at once of life. And so we don't have that little by little training in the superficial places, which is why I think God is grabbing us in the deeper places to bring us to the little by littles of his realm. Because it's in the little by littles that we learn a deeper faith. It's in the little by littles that we learn discipline. It's in the little by littles where God teaches us to trust. But we are so, like, even our brain pathways are now being trained for the all at once. And so I'm really I feel in my heart that the Lord is going to bring more of us into the little by littles of his kingdom. So for me, the way this happened was in December of 2020, I started experiencing these really odd migraines where essentially they would last for months, and they would, out of like 7 days, maybe I would be in pain 4 or 5 days. For some of that, I was functional. I could do my work just more slowly from a little bit of a foggy place. But when I was praying about it during that time, and of course, you have on the one hand the global thing that's going on with all the stuff that was going on in our country and all the stuff with the pandemic, and on the other hand, I have this personal thing going on. But when I prayed about it, I felt the Lord was saying to me, this is not going to be an all at once thing, that this would be a little by little place in my life. And I felt very deeply that my process was to cling to God deeply during this time. And so, of course, just to give you the end of the story, I'm not completely out of that place, but it is a lot better. It's taken almost 2 years for me to be in a place where there aren't as many days in pain and there are more days in between. But in that, while I was going through that, after about a year and a half, I got to a place without realizing it. In as much as my faith was deepening, in as much as my clinging experience with God was deepening, but there's also a place, a thread of discouragement that had entered into my heart. I felt anxious about the future. I felt disappointed with tomorrow. And I think the combination of where I was personally and where the world was globally I had allowed the enemy in somehow, where he had sold me a bill of goods about discouragement. And so as I was writing The Hidden Prince, this was the question that was before me. What happens when you get to a place where, for whatever reason, you feel like that you cannot trust the future to be as good again, that you are discouraged about the future, you have anxiety about your tomorrow? And so that was really my starting point. And I brought the two main characters to a place where essentially something happened that could never be reversed. And their immediate response was they had lost hold of the goodness of God for the future. They would never have the fullness of their destiny again. But as I was writing the story, little by little, the Lord showed me what he showed the main characters, which was that right around the corner from the worst is God's best. And just because I can't see around the corners does not mean that my destiny is not entirely and absolutely secure. Yours too. This is the hope I want to press into your heart tonight. It doesn't matter if you're stuck in a little by little place. It doesn't matter if your heart is longing for the all at once, and yet the pace that you see is a little by little pace. Right around the corner from this place is God's best. That has never been taken away from you. The only person who can take that away is if you yourself decide to give it away by walking away from God. God's destiny for you is entirely and completely safe, and it is here. And so let's just spend some time thanking God for his little by littles and the incredibly important role they have for our lives while we're in them. I hope you've experienced just a touch of hope in my experience. I want to tell you that I've been waiting all night to hear our next speaker, Cathy Gohlke. Cathy Gohlke is a best-selling Carol Inspi Award-winning author. She is also in the Christie Hall of Fame. Do you know what that means? That means she's won so many Christie Awards that she's in the Hall of Fame. She is that talented. And she writes novels steeped with inspirational lessons, speaking of world and life events through the lens of history. She champions the battle against oppression and celebrates the freedom found only in Christ. I'll tell you something. Her bio reads like, just as you can imagine, the most accomplished person. But what I love about Cathy is she is incredibly humble and gentle. And when I'm in her presence, even if she doesn't say a word, the world feels like a safer, better, saner place. And I can't say anything, a compliment higher than that. Cathy, please take it away.
Well, that's hard to follow, Tessa. Thank you so much. And thank you for the little by littles. That feeds exactly into what I'm going to talk about. But I'm going to take that phrase with me and keep it close to my heart. Thank you. The Lord has been busy in my life lately, and I'm sure he has in yours. And the thing, though, that I would say is dominating my life and my family's life right now is the impending death of our mother. Our mom is 95 years old. She's lived a long and faith-filled life, a very courageous life, and overcome many, many difficult obstacles. She's blessed many people. But you can't live that long in a family without receiving and inflicting wounds. And as children, as grown children, we can't live as long as we have without receiving and inflicting wounds. And by the grace of God, all these long years of our mother's life, we've all been able to work through a great many things, and together, and all the siblings. And it's so interesting to me that after all this time, we are closer than we've ever been. And yet my mom is truly more than ready to go home to Jesus. Her favorite song now is "I'll Fly Away." I'll fly away, Old Glory. I'll fly away to a home on God's celestial shore. I'll fly away. She's really looking forward to that. And she calls it her hallelujah song. She asked my sister, who has a lovely voice, to sing it every time she goes to see her, and my brother to play it for her on the telephone. So she's ready. And this summer, Mom took a very sharp decline in her health. We really believed that she would pass within or days. But it has now become weeks and months. My mom is completely crippled and bedridden. She can't even sit up. She's spoon-fed, pureed food. She's in constant pain. She is blind and very hard of hearing. And through all of that, I see a ministry my mother see for my mom.
Okay, well, we seem to have lost Cathy for just a minute. Zoom can be like this. I'm so sorry. Let's just see if we can get her right back on. I see her light blinking. Cathy, are you there?
I am here.
Okay. All right. I'm
Okay.
so sorry. Could you
Oh.
continue with what you were saying? You had just said that your mother, you had been having to feed her.
Yeah, she's
she's
in constant pain. And so it's a terrible thing to watch. She's more and more growing more and more confused about things. And it's terrible for her to go through. But I do see a ministry in this pain. I see my mother gradually letting go of earthly things more and more. Heaven has become so real to her. I think more real in some ways than when we're there with her. And there's a clarity and a peace among my siblings that is a beautiful thing to see, even while we're waiting. And so what I want to share with you tonight is the blueprint that the Lord has given me and how to cope with this, because it's hard to walk with someone to the end of life. And sooner or later, we all do it. We all have mothers. We all have close people in our family and our lives that sooner or later we will make this journey. So this blueprint, for decades, my mother struggled with glaucoma and macular degeneration, and her greatest fear in life was going blind. A few years ago, she suffered a stroke, and the main residual effect of her stroke was that she was blind. We didn't know if she'd cope or how she would cope, but in the days after her stroke, when she came home from the hospital, I spent some time with her, and I found this piece of paper. I don't know if you can see that, it's written in pencil, but I found this piece of paper with her Bible in her room. And I believe it was probably one of the last things my mom wrote in her own hand before going blind. And she said I could have it. I tucked it away as a special memento. But in the last few weeks, I've taken it out as much more than a memento. It has become a blueprint for coping. And this is what it says: be joyful in hope, patient in affliction, faithful in prayer. Romans 12:12. I am amazed that just before my mom's stroke, when she would be blinded, that somehow she received this message from the Lord. I don't know if it was through her devotional book or a sermon she heard or her Bible reading, but it was enough that she wrote it down on a piece of paper, and I've seen her live this now. So I've been meditating on these words: be joyful in hope. I am joyful in hope. Even through this, I'm joyful in the hope and the surety of my mom's salvation. I know that one day before long, Isaiah 35 will be a reality for her, where it says that the lame man will leap like a deer. The eyes of the blind will be opened, the ears of the deaf unstopped. My mom will get out of that bed. She will walk, she'll fly away. She will see the faces of her loved ones and all the beauty of God's creation. She will hear the birds sing. She will hear the angels sing. And so I am joyful in hope and patient in affliction. I know from my own life, from the hard things in my own life, that it does no good to kick against the pricks. It does no good to say, oh Lord, why me? Because it just increases anxiety and depression. But when I'm quiet, when I am patient, and I ask the Lord, what is it you want to teach me in this? What can I learn more about you, Father? Those are the moments in which he teaches me of his lavish love for me, for all of us. Those are the moments in which he teaches me lessons that I have needed to learn all my life, and I really couldn't learn in the busyness of my to-do lists and my brain. The things that have changed me from the inside out. But that only happens when I'm patient in affliction. and faithful in prayer. Oh, I cry out for mercy for my mom and my siblings as we walk through this. But I also thank the Lord every morning. When I open my eyes, I thank him for the new day. I thank him for the breath in my lungs. I thank him for the birds that sing and the beauty of his creation. I thank him for the strength of body and mind and will to love and serve my family, to write stories, to do meaningful work. And I find that the more I praise him, the more uplifted I am. It's so funny to me, strange in a way, that the Lord asks for a sacrifice of praise. And I think, whoa, that's not much of a sacrifice on my part, but it's what he wants. And it's just like God, that what he wants is what's really good for us. It lifts us up. It helps us know him better and love him more and accept his love for us more. So it's become an amazing time of communion with the Lord, even through the hardships of this. And the hardships don't go away, but he's there in all the little by littles, Tessa. I love that. I absolutely love that. So it's not just a command from him for godly living. Be joyful in hope, be patient in affliction, be faithful in prayer. It's just a blueprint for a synergistic experience, a wholeness and well-being to come before the Lord. And that's what's been carrying me through. So I hope that that's encouraging in some way to you. I hope it's something you can tuck into your thoughts for the future. And I thank you for letting me share that with you. Now, I want to hear what's happening in Heidi's life. I have to tell you about Heidi. I love Heidi. I met her for the first time several years ago, before her first book was released. She had signed with Tyndale House Publishers, and since then she has taken the writing world by storm. Her very first book, Freedom's Ring, was a Carol Award winner and a Christie Award finalist. It was a book list top 10 romance debut. Her second Carol Award winning novel, The Orchard House, was inspired by some lesser known experiences and events in Louisa May Alcott's life. Maybe you've been to the Orchard House in Massachusetts. If you haven't, you need to go. It's just a literary dream. And then that book inspired a contemporary series that Heidi's written called the Orchard House Bed and Breakfast series. It's a contemporary series with a Little Women twist. So Heidi makes her home in Massachusetts with her husband and her 2 sons. Please welcome Heidi with me and enjoy her, as we all do, as she tells us what the Lord's been doing in her life. Heidi.
Thank you so much, Cathy. Thank you for that introduction and for sharing what's on your heart in such a brave and authentic way. I know you've blessed me, and I'm sure we will all be praying for you and your family as you continue to walk this road. Thank you for sharing, my sister. It is so wonderful to be with you all and share in celebrating Tessa's beautiful new release. When I sat down to decide what I would share with you all tonight about what God is doing in my life, I honestly rebelled at the first thought that popped into my head, because it was a bit personal. But the more I prayed about what to share, I felt the Lord prompting me to share this part of myself, even if I can't share all the details. So somewhat recently, I found my world had really tilted. Someone very close to me had hurt me in a way I never thought possible. This is not my husband. I do just want to say that. This person proved through their actions that they were not the person I thought they were. What was more, I felt that I had failed in this relationship and in my role in this person's life. After countless tears and many nights tossing and turning, I realized that part of the reason I was so horribly upset was because I was taking responsibility for this person's actions and grieving my lack of control over their life. And I wanted their life to so desperately go well. I wanted to see them walking with the Lord, claiming his strength over their life. An unexpectedly beautiful thing happened during this time, and it was very much a little by little thing. In the midst of this intense despair and grief, I actually drew closer to God than I had been in a long while. And, I've heard about people going through these really intense trials and finding this, newfound closeness with God. And I've read about it. I've even, of course, experienced it to a lesser degree. But this is the first time since I was saved that I just undeniably felt his arms just so presently around me. Like he was just drawing me to himself in the midst of this heartache. He was the one that was comforting me in this impossible mess. And I felt like I was seen by him, like in the midst of my struggles, like that there was no part of this that he didn't understand. And the crazy thing is that I noticed during this is his grace matched my trouble. Like it's like a scale, and every time I went through another doorway of trial, it's like his grace met me there. And it's just such a beautiful thing. And I felt it so acutely because this was the first massive trouble that I'd had in this chapter in my life. Not too long ago, when I was in the middle of this trial, the Lord spoke to me through a dear friend, that told me that God asks us to be faithful in our relationships, but the results of what fruit that relationship will bear and the results of our efforts are up to him. In this particular situation I was in, I was looking for an outcome in this relationship, visible results that kind of gave me a good report card, indicating the effort and love I poured into this person. I realize now that a lot of that stemmed from trusting in myself and not trusting in God with this person's life. So, when I received that bad report card, I felt like a failure. But this really had a way of honing my faith and trust in my Heavenly Father because, I didn't expect that, but God's kingdom is just this amazing upside down kingdom. And so that's exactly what he elicited in my spirit, a deeper place of trust, a knowledge that the good fruit I so wanted to see in this person and in this relationship was not by my efforts alone. I found a lot of comfort in resting in the fact that what I needed to do was simply be faithful to what the Lord was calling me to do. The results would be his. I could not be Superwoman. He wasn't asking me to be Superwoman. I could not force this person to conform to my way of thinking or live how I wanted them to live. But all I could do simply was to be faithful in the midst of the difficult. And that actually gave me a lot of beautiful comfort that God wasn't asking the impossible of me. He was simply asking me to lean into his strength. So I want to encourage you, if you are going through a difficult time, please know that our God is a God who sees you, all the details of your life, both the good and the bad. He treasures it all and is close to you because it's a part of you in your life, a part of the child whom he desperately loves. I just want to urge you to run to him, to lean into his strength, to fall into his capable arms. His grace will match your needs, and I will most certainly be praying to that end for you as well. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope that something that I said has just kind of grabbed you and given you just a small reason to lean a little closer, borrow a little deeper into the Lord's arms. So we're gonna switch gears now, and I'm going to be introducing you to Carrie Turansky. I met Carrie about 8 years ago at a writers' conference, and I didn't have a contract. I was just a struggling newbie writer. And Carrie was like, you know, big time. And I met her and I was a little awestruck, but she was so gracious and warm to me. And that is exactly how her books are. They are beautiful. And she has this warmth to her writing that I just love. For those of you who don't know Carrie, she is the award-winning author of more than 20 inspirational novels and novellas, and a winner of the ACFW Carroll Award, the International Digital Award, and the Holt Medallion. She loves traveling to England to research her latest Edwardian novels, including No Journey Too Far, No Ocean Too Wide, Across the Blue, and the Highland Hall series. I highly recommend all of those books. Her novels have received starred reviews from christianbook.com and Library Journal and have been translated into several languages to be enjoyed by readers around the world. So I am so excited to hear from Carrie, and would you just welcome her with me?
Thank you, Heidi. I just love what you shared from your heart. That was wonderful to hear how the Lord's bringing you through and teaching you such beautiful lessons. So friends, we're just so happy that you're here with us tonight. You know, our goal is really to give you hope and inspiration as, you know, we share from our hearts. So we hope that's coming through. And we'll also talk about our novels here in a little bit. We just really want first just to share what the Lord's been teaching us. So have you ever been through a home renovation? It can be really exciting when you first start and you plan how beautiful your home is going to look when you're finished. But when the work actually begins, it soon becomes unsettling, disruptive, and even chaotic. And that makes you wonder why you ever had this great idea to do a home renovation to start with. I think ours happened because I watched those home renovation TV shows too much. But for the last few months, we've been slowly remodeling our kitchen, our living room, and our dining room, opening them up to be one large area instead of 3 small rooms. So to get started with that, we had to knock down 2 walls and put up a big beam in our attic. And my husband is very handy and we are very thrifty. So we're doing a lot of the work ourselves. And then we hired 2 young kind of junior carpenters to come in and help us with some of the project kind of in between their other work. So it's taking quite a long time to get this finished. And I love my home. And when it's clean and organized, I feel a sense of peace. And I'm able to take on all kinds of writing projects and ministry projects. But I've discovered that when my home is torn up and there's sawdust flying and coating everything many times over, I can start feeling pretty unsettled. And I have to confess, I've even been grumpy on some days when parts of the project were not completed on time, like the painting of the cabinets in the kitchen. The man says 4 to 5 days. Well, on day 14, when they still weren't done and we didn't have access to our kitchen, I think I was about ready to pull out my hair. And that was right after we had put in a new vinyl floor. And the man who was cleaning up from the painting, he says, "Oh, it looks like you have a leak under your sink." Sure enough, water comes flooding out all over the brand new floor. We did test if it was waterproof and we found out that it is. So anyway, we've had some real ups and downs with this project. And it's amazing to me how much of my peace is tied to peaceful surroundings and how easily my feathers can be ruffled when there are delays with the project. So I've taken these complaints and these unsettled feelings to the Lord, and He has very gently revealed the way my heart and my mind need to adjust and get back in line with Him and His peace. So the verses that He showed me that have been helping me through this are Lamentations 3:22 to 24. The steadfast love of the Lord never ceases. His mercies never come to an end. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. The Lord is my portion, says my soul. Therefore, I will hope in Him. So let's take a look at each one of those phrases and think about them for a minute. You know, the first one is, The steadfast love of the Lord never ceases. And this steadfast love is his covenant love, his unconditional love, that's sure and unchanging. And that love of God is always available to us. Nothing can separate us from him and his love. Not tools spread out all over the floor, or spilled paint, or delayed deliveries. I have to remind myself that my heart is safe and protected and cherished by him. And the next phrase says, his mercies never come to an end. God is merciful and forgiving toward us. And I have definitely needed that during this project. I have to confess, I've been leaning in for his mercy and his forgiveness for my attitude sometimes. He never runs out of mercy toward us. Every day we can begin again and have a fresh start. And every day we can count on God's love and mercy to be there for us. And then the next phrase says, great is his faithfulness. God's faithfulness and his commitment to me are a sure foundation for my hope. And his faithfulness is my comfort, and it gives me confidence. He's good and loving and trustworthy. I can count on him to be with me every day through whatever comes my way, no matter how long this project takes. And then the next phrase is, the Lord is my portion, says my soul. He is my gift, my inheritance. My relationship with him is unfailing. And it's good for me to talk to myself, to tell my soul that those things are true. So don't be worried if you're talking to yourself, as long as you're saying good things like that. It's okay. And then we have, therefore, I will put my hope in him. And that's our conclusion. Since all these things are true, that God loves me, he's continually merciful and forgiving toward me, that every day is a fresh start in my relationship with him, and that I can count on his rock solid character toward me. Everything else might change or be stripped away or take forever to get concluded, but I have the Lord. And because of this, I can choose to trust him. I can trust his purpose and his plan, his protection, his provision, and that gives me great hope. So I don't know if you're going through any kind of a remodeling project right now, but you're probably facing, some kind of challenge that can leave you feeling unsettled or needing reassurance of God's love and faithfulness. So when those unsettled feelings rise up, come into your heart, I hope you'll remember these truths from Lamentations, that God's love for you is unconditional. He is continually merciful and forgiving toward you. Every day can be a fresh start. You can count on his faithfulness. He is everything you need. You can trust God, and you can put your hope in him. So, now we're going to turn it back over to our hostess, Julie, and she has some giveaways for us.
Yes, well, it has just been so exciting to see how God is using what he's doing in your life through the little by littles and the letting go and the grace matching our troubles and God's unconditional love giving us a peaceful surrounding that we can't create ourselves. Everything has been, seems to tie together for me. I don't know about you guys, but it's been so good. And I'm excited to hear more about the books that come out of these life stories that God has you walking through. So, but exciting time. It's time for some giveaways. Our first set of giveaways, I'm just going to share my screen for a minute. And let's see. Here is our full set of giveaways I'm really excited about. And our first giveaway is Cathy Gohlke's 100 Crickets Singing. And the winner of this giveaway, and I'll be emailing all the winners after this event, so you can just celebrate and I'll be in touch with you, is Kimberly Grace. Very nice. Congratulations. Our second giveaway is Carrie's book, No Journey Too Far. And the winner is Karen Heath. Nice job. And then finally for this round, we have Heidi's book, Hope Beyond the Waves. And the winner here is Laura W. So congratulations to our first three winners, and we will be getting in touch with you. Now, don't forget that, the bookstore is open through Friday, but now we're going to hear a little bit from each of the authors about their books, and they're going to share one thread from their stories, from their novels, that they know is going to speak to the readers, just to the readers' hearts, and that one thread that I think you'll be just so intrigued and want to get the whole book. Carrie, we'll go back to you and you can get us started with your novel.
Okay, I am excited to tell you about my latest novel, which is No Journey Too Far. And it is actually the second of the McAllister family novels. The first is No Ocean Too Wide. So together they tell the story of the McAllister siblings. And there are four children in the family. And I'm going to look at my notes so I can get it right. That are taken away from England to Canada as British home children without their mother's knowledge or permission. And the oldest daughter has already left to work as a lady's maid at a large estate. When she learns that her two sisters and brother have been sent away, she determines she's going to follow them to Canada and try to reunite the family. So these two books are based on an actual child immigration program that took more than 100,000 children from England to Canada between 1869 and 1939. And the research for this family story really gripped my heart. So I decided to use many of the true events and weave them together to tell the story of a fictional family and highlight what actually happened to many British home children. Unfortunately, most of them were taken in as indentured workers rather than being adopted by a family. And many suffered from prejudice and abuse and were outcasts in their community. So No Ocean Too Wide focuses on when they're young and they're first taken away. And the second book, No Journey Too Far, the one that just came out, is set 10 years later, because I wanted to show what happened to British home children when they became young adults. They faced many of the same challenges that foster children face when they come of age and have to, go out on their own and make a life for themselves. So the things that happened in the story, even though it's 100 years ago, some of those same things are happening today. So No Ocean Too Wide and No Journey Too Far highlight themes about love and commitment to family, as well as God's provision and protection for orphans and widows. And I hope that knowing that the stories are based on true events will make them really more meaningful for you. And I hope that they'll motivate readers to consider the needs of children, especially orphans, and they'll look for practical ways that they can help them. Both books include family drama, romance, and they offer hope and inspiration for readers. So I hope you'll look for No Ocean Too Wide and No Journey Too Far and enjoy those stories. And now I'm going to turn it back to Heidi so she can tell you about her latest novel.
Sorry, just making sure I'm unmuted. Thank you so much, Carrie. I love your books, and that was great. My book, I don't know if it's glare, Hope Beyond the Waves. This is my book. It's my latest dual timeline novel. And I first wrote this as a historical story 10 years ago. When I turned 40 last year, I asked myself if I could only put out one more book, Lord willing, there'll be many more, but if I could only put out one more, what would it be? And this is the novel that came to my heart. And this is the one I decided would be my 10th published novel. I did rework it as a dual timeline novel last fall and winter. It's about a young woman named Emily. In the early 90s, she's sent away to live with her estranged grandmother on Cape Cod to hide a teen pregnancy. And when Emily finds a photograph in her grandmother's house, she realizes her grandmother has concealed a secret that's even bigger than her own. Her grandmother tells her the story of her sister. Back in 1916, her sister Ada plans to marry the man of her dreams and whisk her little sister away from their abusive father. But when she's diagnosed with a dreaded malady, Ada is forced into a life of exile, leaving her sister in harm's way. So my historical heroine, Ada, finds herself in impossible circumstances and a situation beyond her control. All her life, she has attempted to rule her relationship with God by her good works and religious deeds. But now she finds herself exiled and alone with this feared disease. And she has a choice to allow the illness to consume her body and her soul, or to lean into the God who loves the unlovable, forgives the unforgivable, and gives hope to the hopeless. Not many of us ask for trials to come into our life, and yet Many times the trials we wade through are a place where our spirits finally tire enough to give everything over to God. And I think about what I shared with you earlier. That was certainly the case with me. I think one of the most painful experiences I've come upon in the human experience is being misunderstood. And that's very much how Ada feels. A slight blemish on her otherwise perfect skin condemns her to a life of exile, a life with leprosy. It condemns her to a place of degradation and uncleanliness. She's cast off from her town and her family, and she's convinced the disease is a result of her past sins. But through her journey and with the help of a handsome young doctor, she will learn the Lord's truth, that he sees her as his precious child despite her sin, that he never misunderstands her, or us for that matter. He desires an intimate relationship with us. He invites us into his Sabbath rest. My sisters and brothers, I pray you will know this Sabbath rest also. In the midst of your trials, may you feel his grace matching your struggles step for step. May you feel his eyes upon you, for he does see you. May you feel his hands around you, for he does care for you. And may all these feelings be rooted in the depth of his truth. He is the God who sees, the God who saves. His grace is enough in the highs and in the lows, in the triumphs and in the blows of life. He will never leave your side. It has been an absolute joy to be with you all tonight. Thank you for the honor. And now I am so pleased and honored to hand the mic over to Cathy again so she can talk to us about her beautiful book, 100 Crickets Singing.
Thank you, Heidi. That book just sounds so wonderful. If you haven't already read it, you just got to get it. All of these books sound wonderful, and they are wonderful. And it's such a privilege to share this evening with these sisters in Christ and to hear their hearts and hear their stories. Excuse me, I have a cold, and I'm sorry to sound so froggy tonight. My latest book is 100 Crickets Singing. You might recognize it as a companion novel to Nightbird Calling, if you've read that. It's not a series, so this is not a sequel. They're both standalones, but they both take place in No Creek, North Carolina, a fictional Appalachian mountain town. 100 Crickets Singing is a dual timeline novel between the American Civil War, excuse me, and World War II. In wars 80 years apart, two young women living on the same Appalachian estate determined to aid soldiers during the war of their time period who are dear to them and to fight for justice. It's during a violent World War II storm that rips through the attic of the estate that a sealed room is revealed. And in that room, there is a trunk with a false bottom. And young Celia Percy discovers in that false bottom a diary written by Minnie Belvedere in the 1860s during the Civil War. And also some documents that revealed that a terrible injustice was done at that time, an injustice that Minnie worked very hard to correct, but was not able, even though she risked everything to do that. So Celia also works very hard to right this wrong, because she believes that if the truth comes out, that her very dear friend, Marshall, whose ancestors were once enslaved by the Belvedere family, that his whole future and his family's future could be transformed. I was already writing this book when Mr. George Floyd was killed, but I have to say that that whole time period, that our nation's narrative on race at that time really did impact the writing of the book and changed some of the things that I decided to say and the characters that portrayed those events. The wonderful thing for me was that I was able to bring out so much history of not only the Civil War, but what happened afterward during Reconstruction and what didn't happen when Reconstruction was cut short. And then during World War II, what happened with the GI Bill and what didn't happen with the GI Bill, and how that thrust that wonderful GI Bill thrust many families in America into the middle class and started so many wonderful things for our country, but that didn't happen for everyone. So it was a real privilege to write the story, to bring those things to life, but also to go back to No Creek. I love the characters in No Creek. I love Celia Percy. So that was a real treat for me to be able to spend more time there. The thread that I would like to share from this book, though, is the thing that I absolutely love. Both Minnie Belvedere, Minerva Minnie Belvedere in the 1800s and Celia Percy in the 1940s worked so hard to right the wrongs and correct the injustices they saw. They both worked so hard to help the people that they loved and cared about. But they, in their time and their place, even though they used everything that they could that the Lord had put into their hands, they weren't able to make all those things perfect. And neither are we. We can't right all the wrongs in the world. We see so much injustice and trouble in our world today, and we are not able to fix it. Only God can fix it, and in his time. But what he does is place things in our hands, opportunities, our location, where we live, where we work, where we go to school, all kinds of things are resources that give us opportunities to do what we can. And isn't that what we want to hear at the end of life? She has done what she could. That's what we want to hear. So we might not be able to correct all the wrongs, but hopefully we can move the needle forward, and truly we can be faithful to what the Lord has given us to do. And that's the thing that I take away mostly from this book. And I hope that you will find in the book if you read 100 Crickets Singing. I hope you enjoy it. If you read it, I'd love to sign a copy for you if you decide to order it. It has been, just like Heidi and Carrie both said, an absolute pleasure meeting with you. It's an absolute joy to celebrate the release of Tessa's wonderful new book. And she's going to tell you a lot more about that after Julie does some more giveaways for us. But I just want to thank you for coming and for allowing me to share my heart with you this evening. I pray that the Lord will bless you and keep you and lift you up through all the hard days, because we all have hard days. Know that we're there with you. We're praying for you. And we just are so thankful for you. So, Julie, will you take it away, please?
Yes, absolutely. It's my favorite thing to give away stuff. So it's so wonderful to get these sneak peeks into novels, some of which are still on my to be read list. So it's really exciting. And wow, intriguing backstories to each of these. It's just so great. Thank you for sharing. We have 2 giveaways at this point before we hear from Tessa. And let me just show you those. So this first one is a scarf and journal set that is actually themed with the Hidden Prince theme. It's from Tessa. And it's just a beautiful light scarf and a journal you can record all your bookish thoughts in. And our winner here is Marilyn Allison. So congratulations. Our next gift from Tessa is a $20 American Express gift card, because we know you have lots of other books on your wish list. So Tessa's giving this out to one of you, and it's going to go to Amy C. So congratulations to both of our winners there. We have one more big giveaway closer to the end of the night, but right after we hear from Tessa about the heart of her novel, The Hidden Prince. Oh, you need to unmute yourself, Tessa.
I just told you the secret of life and you missed it. No, I didn't. So I've just been enjoying listening to everyone, as I'm sure you have, and reading your notes at the same time. It's been such a fun night. Thank you, everybody. And you've been speaking so deeply to my heart. So, of course, the novel I want to share with you tonight is The Hidden Prince. It just came out. The Hidden Prince is based on a fictional character named Karen, who is a Jewish captive who lives in Babylon, and she finds herself in the household of Daniel, working as a servant who's almost like family, but she fills an unusual role. She serves in the post of Daniel's scribe at home. But unfortunately, something happens that you can't turn this clock back. Event happens, and she has to run away from Babylon in order to save her life. So while she's living in Babylon, Daniel takes her to the Hanging Gardens. Now, Babylon at this time was considered the most splendid city in the world. It was a wonder. Everything about it was a wonder. But maybe one of the most wondrous things were these hanging gardens, which Nebuchadnezzar had built on the roof of one of his palaces. You have to remember that Babylon was situated in Iraq. It's very dry, very hot. And the only reason that they had this city grow so great and so big was because they had learned how to bring the waters of the Euphrates and canal them through the city, so they had enough water. But generally speaking, it was a very dry land, and trees, like there were very few trees that grew there. They for example, they didn't drink wine because they couldn't grow grapes. The grapes would die in that weather. In order, and one of the hottest places that you could have was a rooftop, because of course, you know, up there, this is just really, really hot. And Daniel looks at Karen and essentially reminds her of this beautiful promise from the prophet Isaiah. And the prophet Isaiah speaking, sort of prophesying to the captives in Babylon, he says, "And the Lord will guide you continually and satisfy your desire in scorched places, and make your bones strong, and you shall be like a watered garden." And Daniel is reminding Karen, sometimes your life will feel like a scorched place. Well, a scorched place, there's no more scorched place than a rooftop in Babylon. You know, it is hot and it is impossible to grow anything good. And yet here, there is this unbelievable garden with mature trees and streams and flowers growing there. And it's such a, and I can't help but imagine that the captives in Babylon, because they would have been able to see the hanging gardens just from the roadside as they walked, that they would walk and they would remember that promise from Isaiah, because their lives were a scorched place at that time. They were captives, even the best treated ones, the ones who weren't slaves, even they were sort of second-class citizens at this point. They would have looked up at that garden and they would have remembered, one day my scorched place, my rooftop, my impossibly dry bones could turn into that, because with God, all things are possible. Nothing is impossible with God. So this book is about really remembering that your scorched places, even your rooftops, your dry bones can turn into a well-watered garden. It's kind of a lighthearted book, except for that scene that I think you won't see coming. Most people won't see coming, and it's sort of hard to come back. But I just want you to press through that point and know that right after that, there's going to be like a lot of lighthearted laughter and a lot of this theme of dry bones turning into a well-watered garden, which is what I hope and pray for you and for your life. One last thing I want to say is, if you want to go ahead and read, like look at the stars for this book, that's great, but don't read too many reviews, because honestly, some of the reviewers are giving things away. Like we have a bookmark for this, and it says, "Who is the hidden prince?" But some of the reviewers are telling you who the hidden prince is. Some of you are going to know your history, you're going to know your Bible very early on, you'll figure it out, and that's okay. I didn't write it for, like, the book's enjoyment doesn't hang on that, But you will enjoy that bit more if you don't know going in just because you read somebody's review and they, gave you a spoiler. So avoid those things. I love reviews. I read them like religiously, but they're not good for you, really. So at this point, I want to transition back to Julie real quick for Julie to give us back our final giveaway, which is my favorite. And we'll come back. If those of you who want to hang out and ask us maybe 2 or 3 questions from one of us, we'd love to answer those as well.
Okay, thank you, Tessa. Yes, it's the big giveaway. Just before I reveal the winner, just reminding you that the virtual bookshop is open and it's in 2 separate links. Tessa and Cathy and Carrie's books are at one link and Heidi's is at another. And this virtual bookshop is only open until November 12th to get the autographed copies, because it's just for you guys at this event. So it's really special. So the final giveaway is this lovely book box. I'm going to put it up on the screen here. This is the Hidden Prince book box from Tessa Afshar, and it was a special box she created so lovingly, put together all these goodies that are reminiscent of the Hidden Prince's themes. There is, of course, the book will be in there, and a journal and a pencil to record your notes, and one of those lovely scarves, and then some beautiful makeup remover and rose scented cream, like hand cream. Is so delightful. So this book is just this book box is so great. And our winner is Erica Luther. Congratulations. So we're excited for you to have won that. I will be getting in touch again with all the winners. And so now we had a few questions in the chat box. And we thank you so much for coming and listening to all of the treasures. I think these little gems the authors have given us are just like treasures, like spiritual treasures, but like book teaser treasures. I just love hearing all these little nuggets. But we did have a few questions for the authors, so we're going to take a few of those right now. Authors, are you ready? One of the questions is, this is kind of a fun one. Is it hard for you to read for fun while you're writing your novels?
I'll take this one because I read all the time and it's not hard for me at all. I love it. That's my escape. That's where I go. I don't read my own genre. Definitely not when I'm writing my novels, but it's not my favorite genre, I'll be honest, because I write a very specific way. But I love historical fiction. I love I love cozy mysteries. I love all sorts of books. So I am always reading in the bathroom, when I wake up, when I'm brushing my teeth. It's that I'm attached to a book.
I'm really into audiobooks right now, and it seems like I can kind of separate myself from what I'm writing and if I'm listening to a story. So I'm really enjoying audiobooks, and I listen to all different genres, mainly like historical novels or contemporary. So usually always inspirational ones. So I stick in that genre.
Well, how about another question? This is kind of also another fun one. How did you guys decide to put this event together? How did this wonderful group of authors make this decision? Because this has been a lot of fun, and I think people are wondering.
Oh, Cathy, you have to unmute yourself.
Heidi emailed us and she said, Tessa's book is going to release, and do you want to do a group event? And it was just such a wonderful idea. And I have to say that when that email first came, I thought, oh, that's a good idea. But I had no idea how much of a blessing it would be to have our time together in preparing for this and in sharing it. And I just love that it is a deeper more spiritual event. It's not just a book sale. I am so thankful for that. So anytime.
Okay, now kind of a more serious question. One of our listeners tonight asked, how can they best pray for you as authors?
Heidi, you go. You haven't gone.
Okay. What a sweet question. Thank you so much for that thoughtful thought. So I know there's probably specific areas that each author would ask to be praying for. I know for me, just that we would write what the Lord would have us write. I think every time I sit down to write a book, I know there's a message in there, and it might not be, this overly preachy thing, hopefully not, but that it's embedded in the book as a treasure for our readers. And I feel like there's only a unique way that the Lord can put it in us, and that it will come out through our fingers and our brains and all of that. But just that He would reveal that to us as we continue writing our books, because sometimes it's a struggle, at least for me, to kind of come upon it, or I'll write a whole first draft and it's not fleshed out well enough and clear enough. And I just want His, what He wants us to write to be in our books. And so that is for me. I'm sure somebody else probably has other things as well.
I think that's perfect.
I agree.
Well, thank you. Those are some great questions. And I know we had a couple others, and I'm going to pass those along to the authors after this event, and maybe they'll be sharing the answers to those in some of their upcoming newsletters and social media posts. But unfortunately, we do have to close for the night. Thank you so much. This has been so fun to hear behind the scenes details and some spiritual truths from your books and your author life. We appreciate you, authors, and we appreciate the over 100 of you that showed up tonight. So many people who are going to also be able to listen to this tomorrow when I send this out. So we just appreciate all of you for being here, and we'll just have Tessa close out this night.
Thank you, Julie. I want to again thank Julie, especially, who was just multitasking all through that. She just had her own book release, fairy tales for toddlers. And Julie, can you hold up just how cute that is? Would be a great gift for.
Well, thank you. I do have my book here. It's called The Toddler Story Treasury. So thank you so much, Tessa.
Absolutely. We treasure all of you, our readers, our fans, and we hope that we have other opportunities to connect with you. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make His face to shine upon you. Thanks for being with us tonight. God bless. Bye-bye.